joining us this afternoon. I think we got everybody in. I want to thank everyone for your time. We're continuing our series of webinars for BC Soccer. We have tonight, this afternoon, Reid, Calder, and Taryn from FSQ Sports to present us on club engagement, more specifically club licensing, as well as the stakeholder development calendar as a tool to provide that we provide clubs to provide to give support to club licensing application. I'll turn over to Reid and take us through the journey here. Reid.
Perfect. Thanks for the introduction, Gabe. So thanks for everyone for joining us this afternoon. If you don't know me already, my name is Reid, and I'm the club engagement coordinator here at BC Soccer. So just kind of diving right in a little bit about me. Originally, I am from Waterloo, Ontario. I started actually at the club level at Waterloo United and was there for about 4 years before the transition to BC Soccer. So obviously you can say that this is my passion and the love for the game is real. And then some of the roles and responsibilities of what I actually do here at BC Soccer is what we will be covering as well, along with the club licensing. So we will dive right in. So first up, just to cover a little bit of everything that I kind of oversee and what's currently going on under my position. Right now, we currently have our 2023 scholarship application window now open. For pretty much the last 15 years, BC Soccer, along with its generous donors, has been proud to support graduating students within BC Soccer's membership. And these are designed for students who are eager to continue their studies in post-secondary institutions. All the information can be found online at www.bcsoccer.net. So make sure to pass this along as the deadline is coming up. It's $1,000 scholarships for 11 applicants. So very exciting stuff. So a couple more weeks with that. As well, under the club engagement, I also oversee the awards. As of right now, our award season is not quite open. It will open at the beginning of July. And again, make sure you check out our website to stay all informed and updated, as well as our social media channels. Into the big picture stuff. So essentially what we are going to be really diving into is the club licensing, and that is essentially my job here at BC Soccer. We will be covering the procedures and kind of what entails in club licensing in all levels. Expected timelines, as some of you already may know this information, the 4 levels of club licensing and the benefits and procedures within all of them, expectations and benefits within those licenses, as well as a brief FAQ of some of the questions that we get asked quite frequently. The Canada Soccer Club Licensing Program aims to promote excellence in soccer clubs across Canada. By obtaining a Canada Soccer Club license, clubs in BC can demonstrate their commitment to best practices and high standards of operation. Obviously, as most clubs know throughout the BC province, this is mandatory for 2023, and all clubs within the province must have some sort of license by September of 2023. At this time, we like to essentially show this graphic here. Rather than it being a hierarchy, the club licensing is a lot more of a lateral type avenue, with the standards for quality soccer as the tier 1, all the way up to member association 1, member association 2, and the national youth club license. And again, we will dive into a little deeper in what entails in both of those, or all 4 of those, sorry. The club licensing procedures is we at BC Soccer and myself, we look at the eligibility of the clubs, so the governance and the standing that your current club is. We then open the application window for clubs to start their application. I, in partnership with Canada Soccer, assess the club's applications. We, if there are any, provide recommendations and improvements and small edits for the clubs to essentially, we work back and forth. Once those have been all cleared, approved, the license is awarded, and then there is renewal processes, and obviously we'll dive more into the timelines for each specific license. So to give everybody a general idea, and again, please keep in mind that these dates and times are subject to change year after year. This is what we have done since I've come into play at BC Soccer. It's designed to guide member organizations throughout the country, specifically our province, toward the best principles for organization development, both on and off the field. So obviously technical and administrative. As you can see, the coastal club licensing window has finished, and it was a success. And the interior club licensing has just recently opened, with clubs now being registered into the new system, and essentially just starting their road down to the club licensing application. And again, please keep in mind dates and times are subject to change. So what is Quality Soccer Provider? So Quality Soccer Provider license is the entry license for all member organizations who are obviously in good standing with their respective governing bodies, which usually entails their district and then BC Soccer. Club requirements and expectations for the Quality Soccer Provider is a development appropriate, safe, enjoyable, accessible, inclusive, and welcoming player environment for their participants. This creates the baseline expectations for all organizations, and it differentiates the club from non-member soccer and unorganized play to organized and a member of not only Canada Soccer, BC Soccer, and then obviously their district. Evaluation comes for these licenses after being awarded it is about a 4-year certificate life. The benefits of this license, again, it differentiates from non-member soccer organizations, and then creates that baseline for all expectations. Member Association 1 club license of the Canada Soccer Club Licensing Program builds on the characteristics and behaviors of an organization in the Canada Soccer Standards for Quality, so Quality Soccer Provider. The club requirements and expectations demonstrates the characteristics and behaviors of the Canada Soccer Standards for Quality Soccer. The characteristics and behaviors are designed to recognize high quality grassroots, community, and competitive organizations that have developed their governance and operations on field. And then the benefits of this license demonstrates a commitment to quality. Again, this license is also, after being approved for the first round, is good for 4 years. And on to the next. Member Association 2 is the third type of license within the options for youth clubs. It is making an enhanced commitment across each of the pillars, which requires significant resources to achieve. The pillars essentially include administrative, governance, mentorship, and then finance as well. Club requirements and expectations for Member Association 2 is an enhanced commitment across each of the pillars, which again requires significant resources to achieve, and they are recognized accordingly by Canada Soccer. This also enhances the competitive stream and targets those with aspirations of moving on into the development/performance stream. What we have seen with, not necessarily in BC, but other provinces, is a significant benefit in player recruitment and retention when you are essentially getting at this level. And the evaluation after receiving the certification is every 2 years. And last but not least, we have the National Youth Club License. What is it? The National Youth Club License is from Canada Soccer, recognizes the highest achieving organizations within the province and across the country. The requirements and expectations, optimal governance structures, processes, and policies are as committed to their development, as well as they kind of go hand in hand, is a BCSPL franchise. You can't have a National Youth Club license without having a BC Soccer player league. The benefits of this license: the club displays characteristics and demonstrates behavior aligned with the highest expectations of governance, administration, infrastructure, and technical. And this license, due to the extent of it and how much goes into it, every 2 years after achieving it the first time around, is up for the renewal process. Club licensing FAQ is club licensing mandatory. So as I previously mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, it is mandatory by all youth clubs within the province by September of 2023. So this year, obviously. Is there club support from BC Soccer? So not only does BC Soccer offer grants for clubs, and we'll get into that shortly, but also hiring me on as a full-time staff member at BC Soccer to be able to support the clubs and be that point of contact with all things club licensing. Do these licenses only apply to clubs? These licenses apply to any organization that is a member of Canada Soccer, either directly or affiliated through membership with a Canada Soccer member association, such as BC Soccer, that registers players and coaches and delivers soccer programming. A lot, especially since we have opened the interior, a lot of concerns have come out with the size of clubs or if you're a complete volunteer. And Canada Soccer, along with BC Soccer, is obviously very aware of all the different geographical locations and demographics of each club. And the club licensing program is designed to be inclusive regardless of size or financial power. Grants. So as you can see, we offer here at BC Soccer 5 different types of grants: accessibility grant, diversity and inclusion grants, equity grants, organizational grants, and grassroots development grants. Every club is able to apply for these grants. And again, all of this information can be found on BC Soccer's website, along with the application process. So each club is allowed one per physical year, and each grant is up to the amount of $1,000 and can be used for various things. So, for example, the accessibility grant supports programs and initiatives that are designed to offer participants of all abilities the opportunity to partake in soccer activities. Diversity inclusion grants cover and support programs and initiatives that are designed to promote the inclusion of underrepresented groups into soccer. The equity grant that we offer supports programs and initiatives that advance gender equity in soccer. Organizational development grants support programs and initiatives that improve long-term sustainability, enhance governance, and risk management practices. And last but not least, we have the grassroots development grants, supports to programs and initiatives that target the implementation of Canada's soccer's grassroots standards. And again, all of this information can be found on our website as well as the application process. The Stakeholder Development Calendar is a brand new communication tool with partnership with FSQ Consulting. It's a 40-week calendar that is created to help support sport organizations by providing a blueprint for organization operations from preseason all the way to the AGM. So we had a cool experience in the fall. We partnered with UBC and we actually tested it on 4 pilot clubs, all different sizes, all different locations, and generated tons of feedback and got advice, recommendations, all of that good stuff in how they were using it and how they kind of were looking at the benefits and the tools that were available through BC Soccer and the FSQ Stakeholder Development Calendar. So without further ado, I will pass it on to Taryn, who will definitely be able to dive into a little bit further into the Stakeholder Development Calendar.
Great. Thanks, Reid. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Great to be on this call today and excited to share this with you. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background and then share what the Stakeholder Development Calendar is. For those who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'm Taryn Lipschitz, the CEO of FSQ Consulting. And really what we're here is to help sport organizations with the business of sport. We know that you're all incredibly passionate and talented when it comes to teaching soccer, and we don't touch that. We really support in areas of business support, so strategic planning, marketing communication, financial support, and leadership and development. The stakeholder development calendar, which I'll share shortly, was actually developed back in 2010 when we were asked by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee to develop an activating athlete development plan. We've developed the plan and it just sort of sat there. So over the past 2 years, we've actually digitized the athlete development framework and added more to it. And what it really is a basis of operations and communication for a club throughout a season. And this includes preseason, during the season, and follow up after the season, all the way through the AGM. So Reid mentioned it's a 40-week calendar. It's really there to help you operate your club before the season even starts, all the way through throughout the whole year. I'm going to share my screen now and show you what it actually looks like. And why this really is here to help you is from a club licensing perspective, it provides a lot of the quality standards that they'll be looking at for many of the criteria at the various levels. So this is the landing page just so you can see it. Everyone who's interested following this call, who wants to have access to the stakeholder development calendar, can let Reid know by the end of April, and he'll support you in signing up and registering, and then you'll have access to this login page. Once you sign up to the stakeholder development calendar, you'll see an overview page that this is when you log in, what it looks like in the back end. So it's really set up like a course and designed for a club to take the pieces that are relevant to your club and edit it and customize it as you need it. So it's really the framework and a guide, but it isn't mandatory. It really is flexible in how you need to use it. It goes through, like we said, all the way week 1 preseason through to your AGM and includes some resources as well. I picked a few of the different screens that I'll share with you, and feel free to jump in with questions or put them in the chat. We go through there's an overview of what the calendar is, what's included in it, and how to use it. And within each week, what we have is the details for that week, all of the accompanying downloads, as well as the communication to go out. And part of what's really important from a communication perspective is making sure that there's consistency with all of your stakeholders. And when we speak about stakeholders, it's not just the parents, the players, and the coaches, but also your board, your administrative, your managers, all of your staff, as well as all of those associated with your club. So how it works is you start, week 1 is actually 8 weeks before the season starts. So really starting with stakeholder surveys. And we always start with surveys before the season starts, as well as at the end of the season. If it's a longer season, we also recommend stakeholder surveys in the middle to understand how are things going, where can you improve the experience in the middle of the season. And really surveys are a great way to ask your stakeholders how they're feeling, where are the areas of opportunity for growth, what are the challenges of the club, but also allows you the opportunity to communicate and have that two-way dialogue with your stakeholders. So receiving their feedback, then communicating back to them of what are you now doing with that feedback, and then showing them along the way throughout a season of what were the things that you've implemented based on that feedback. So we always recommend starting that way at the season. Week 5, I'm going to pull up is preseason coaches and officials meeting. So it's great to always kick off with all of the coaches and the managers and the officials, a mandatory meeting of who are we as a club, what are our standards and expectations, how do we operate. We have a few different handouts here to support that experience in that meeting, including a True Colors personality test, which is really helping them understand what are the different personalities among our coaching team, and officials as well, and understanding what are the strengths with each of those and how can you work better together. So if I'm a green and Reid is a yellow, what are the great benefits of us being different colors and working together? So we include just a great ice-breaking exercise for that. We explain, what are the 5 C's, and when we talk about the 5 C's, there's competence, which is the technical, tactical side of learning and playing soccer. So really understanding the physical side of it. And then the other 4 C's are around confidence, character, connection, and culture. And why the other 4 C's are really important is you're really helping develop human beings. We're not just developing athletes. We're also looking at, how are you helping people build confidence in who they are and what it means to be part of a team? How are you helping them set goals and build their own character and understand how they can be a leader within their team, within their community, within their school? Connection is really understanding how do you connect with others, be part of a team, whether it's the connection with your teammates, whether it's the connection with your coaches, whether it's connection with parents, and really understanding how does that connection help from a social emotional learning perspective. And then culture. So really understanding and helping everyone understand their role in the bigger piece of the puzzle. How are they part of this club? What does it mean to be part of this club? How do you as a club operate and act? And what are the behaviors there? So we actually walk you through what are the 5 C's and how can you implement this and that language throughout your club. So it really is that bigger experience, and it's not just focusing on the technical, tactical side. We're really looking at the mental, social, emotional, um, on top of the physical learning. And then we also have in there pre-session, post-session checklists. So really helping coaches and really supporting a lot of the volunteer coaches on how do they prep and plan for practices and games? How do you reduce some of that stress and that overwhelming um, experience they may have of wanting to be a coach, and just reducing the stress so they really enjoy the experience and setting them up for success. So that's an example of one of the weeks. Um, Another week that I've pulled up is week 9. So really understanding what player assessment is. How do you understand the 5 C's? How do you assess them? How do you run an athlete assessment and an athlete combine? All of the PDFs are in there for you to use. Um, I'll pull up a few more weeks and then I'll open it up to questions and thoughts. Another week, for example, game day tips on week 11. So we know as we're getting ready for the actual games of the season and the competition, every week has communication. So what are you sending out to the parents, the players, the coaches, the officials, the administrators, and helping all of them understand what's the key theme going on that week and what's their role in it. There's education for parents on what does it really mean, that car ride home after that first game. How can they support their kids' development? What do they need to say around that? So really improving that relationship between coaches and parents, parents and players, players and coaches, etc., by giving them the tools and the education. I'll pull up one more week and then I'll share a few other thoughts around it and then open it up to questions. So we do have stakeholder surveys, like I mentioned, pre, mid, and postseason. We actually include in here the surveys for all of your different stakeholders. So what are you asking administrators? What are you asking the athletes? What are you asking all of the coaches and the parents to really benchmark and see how are you improving season after season, or measuring the culture and the experience at your club and measuring your strategic plan, the implementation of it, what's actually working well and what's not working well. I'll add just one more thing around this, and then I want to share one more document before I open it up to further questions and thoughts. The stakeholder development calendar, it has a lot, like we mentioned, a lot of tools in there and can be customized based on your club. And really it is to support the operations and communication of a club throughout the season. You could be a club that has one person who's full-time, half a person's full-time job. You could be a club that has 10 full-time staff, 20 full-time staff, and it really supports you in the operational efficiency throughout the season, as well as how are you communicating and what is that frequency and cadence of communication. We've built this calendar based on input from different sport professionals across different areas. So soccer, hockey, rugby, swimming, tennis, golf, a ton of different sports, and gotten their input. So this wasn't developed by us saying this is how it should be. It's actually from real life experience. So that's why you'll see a lot of the weeks are around, nutrition, hydration, managing conflict, crisis and questions. There is a week on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So as a club, you do not have to be the experts, but there's a week around what does that mean as a club? How can we open up the conversation and start that? We talk about signs and symptoms of burnout. How do you create a positive tournament experience? So it really goes through a ton of this content that you can use. Um, if you're a club that runs more than one season a year, 2 to 3 even, some of the weeks you might use for season 1, and some of the weeks of content you might use for season 2, just to change it up depending on what's going on in the season and how you want to talk about that. All of these weeks, like we said, can be moved around based on what's going on with your club. Um, and I did want to share one example. So we've actually been working with Mountain United, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and they've been using the stakeholder development calendar since last fall. And one way they've actually taken a piece of this and used it in their communication to improve the experience with their coaches and managers, and in terms of as a club providing them development opportunity, is they took, and this is just a week I've pulled the reasons for decline in sport participation, And what they've done is that week, they actually took that piece of content and created an education piece for their coaches and managers that really speaks to what does that mean from a mountain perspective? How does this relate to the 5Cs? What can you expect from a youth sport experience? What can you do to maximize your youth sport experience? So really helping coaches with soft skill development to be the best coach that they can be. So like I said, this is an example of how they've taken that and pulled it into their own communication. And it's just been a really great experience for them. Like we said, there's videos in there to use as tools as well, TED Talks in there, documents and visuals. But just wanted to show you how this can come to life in an implementation and activation perspective. And if you do go on Mountain's Instagram page and their social media, you can see in the fall how they actually use the stakeholder development calendar, how they've communicated it. They spent the time, their communication team, their operations, their TD and their ED, and went through the content and laid it out for the season. So they were actually all on the same page about what is the experience that we're trying to build and grow for everyone throughout each week. So I know that's a lot of me talking. Hopefully you all understand how the stakeholder development calendar can support your club, and really it's there to improve and increase the operational efficiency, remove the headache day to day of what you need to get done every week, and improve the communication and experience across all of your stakeholders. So like I mentioned at the very beginning, anyone who wants to participate and have access to this tool can let Reid know by the end of April. And then what we'll be doing to prep everyone for the fall season is we're going to be having workshops every 2 weeks to go through it together starting in May, to set you up, because really you should have everything ready to go by the end of June, beginning of July, so that it's stakeholder surveys are going out, you're prepping everyone for preseason, and you're really starting off the season on a really positive note.
First of all, thanks Taryn and Reid for your presentations. As you see here, we're looking at global licensing from a global perspective, not just the standards associated with, but also the operational components that must be in place in order to support that compliance to those standards. We've done quite a bit of work over the last 18 months to refine our grants program to align with club licensing requirements. Now we're getting to the space where we have supporting tools that are being added, and there's further discussions in other areas, in other areas as well, that will be added on in order to have clubs access and meet the standards within the program. I thank you for your attendance. This is our second webinar of this series, as I mentioned at the top. We had discussions already in discipline, complaints, and appeals, and we're welcoming the soccer development team on May 17th at 6 p.m. For the next webinar. It will be the last one of the series. Immediately after the session today, you receive a survey. We encourage you to respond. We want to really target and tailor the webinar to the needs of our members and affiliated clubs in order for us to bring more topics, bring more guest speakers that are able to address some of the concerns and some of the challenges faced by both clubs, leagues, and all clubs, leagues, and districts. All right, Taryn, Reid, thank you very much. Everybody, enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you on May 17th, 6 p.m.